My name is Bob Rennie, and part of the reason I'm here as an amateur historian talking about this particular battle is because my ancestor was the commander of the battle for the Upper Canada Militia.
Well, my name is Doug Coppins. I have a great deal of connection to this battle because I have 5 family members that fought. Captain Thomas Perrin, who had formed the 5th Lincoln Militia in Mount Pleasant.
About at least 70% of the inhabitants of Upper Canada before the war started were born in the USA. By the time this particular battle occurred, it was late in the war. It was November of 1814. America declared war in June of 1812. All 3 subsequent years, the Americans invaded, and each winter the British and Upper Canada forces and with their native allies were able to push them back. They wanted Britain out of North America.
The time when this was going on, there was a major war going on in Europe, and Great Britain was on its own.
Main theaters in Upper Canada were Fort George, Fort Erie, and Queenston Heights, famous because of the loss of General Brock. Lake Erie had been taken by the Americans. The British regulars had basically evacuated everything west of the Grand River.
It was really a challenge because if they had got cut off, they would have been finished.
The main point of MacArthur's raid was to take Burlington Heights, to do what the commander of the forces in the U.S. Northwest said to do, and that was to create a desert between us and them, and that was to burn everything from Toronto to Detroit.
He come up out of Ohio with mounted cavalry, 700. There was from Ohio, Kentucky, indigenous warriors. Snuck up along through Detroit. They went up north of Lake St. Clair to what they called Bear Creek, and they crossed and they started going up along the Thames.
The Americans were able to get as far as Oxford County without being detected.
So the 4th, they arrived in Burford, and they got as far as the river. So they went south and they burned Perrin's Mill on the 5th. They would have heard by now that the militia was getting ready to make a stand at Oakland at Malcolm's Mill.
So there was 2 mills. There was one here and there's one across the other side of the little creek here. This dam area was breached by the defending Upper Canada forces, and that caused the whole valley area to be flooded, which made it virtually impossible to get horses across through the pond and through the flooded area. So from this particular position, we're basically in the middle of the battlefield. The Americans were set up on the ridge on the right-hand side, a heavily treed area. Up on the ridge here is where the Canadian forces were stationed. This area would have been all flooded during the battle. So the Americans doing a frontal attack across the creek for about an hour before the Canadian forces are finally outflanked.
And basically they come across the stream there at Malcolm's and they split in half, and some went straight ahead and they went around and flanked them from behind.
The defending forces, who had to scramble in a hasty retreat once they realized they were double flanked, ultimately giving MacArthur a bloody nose. So we lost this particular battle. They destroyed the mill. 1814, there was a peace treaty signed, and it was a treaty of Ghent. The outcome of the war to the local inhabitants was more a nationhood. It certainly gave them a sense of identity and the fact that they could stand up against the far superior American force.
When this war was over, they started calling themselves Canadians. There was a definite difference between those of us who lived on the north side of the lake and those of us who lived in the south.